Hello, Regina. Can you hear me? How do you feel today? How was your day?
Busy, but fine.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, welcome to this session. So we're gonna continue talking about the authentic assessment, but in this case, we're gonna develop, okay? We're gonna design some assessments that are authentic. So here we got a little introduction that I would like you to read, please.
Yes, in this session, we will focus on how to develop effective authentic assessment. Authentic assessment go beyond simple recall and test students' ability to apply their knowledge in real life context. The goal of this is to create assessment that reflect real world tasks and measure students' ability to perform tasks similar to those required in the professional world. We will discuss the steps in designing an authentic assessment, including defining learning objective, creating a task, choosing assessment criteria, and ensuring feedback is meaningful.
Yes, there are those are gonna be the things that we're gonna discuss in this session. That at the end, you know that we got an assessed evaluation, right? So the topics that we're gonna cover in these sessions are as I told at the beginning, the development of authentic assessment. We're gonna discuss the key concepts when developing authentic assessments, some main characteristics of this kind of assessment, and the steps when defining one. Okay. So our objective for this session are to understand the key principles of authentic assessment, design a real world task that can be used to evaluate a student learning, which is related to the task that you're going to do for this session, and select appropriate criteria and develop rubrics for authentic assessment. And as usually, we're going to start with a speaking section, and today I brought just a few questions. So, what do you think about the traditional assessment? Do you think that they can help students learn, or they just test the students' memory?
Well, it's depend because as you know, every student have different type of learning
Mm-hmm.
process. So it's depend of the students. For example, in my case, I like to active activities. For example, learning, you know, talking each other, like making role plays, things like that. That's the way that I like to learn. However, there are a lot of students that prefer the traditional assessment like exams or quizzes. So, but in my case, I think that both of them work very well.
Yeah, yeah. So something important that you mentioned at the beginning is all depends on the students' learning styles, because they got different. Okay, very good. What about this? Why do you think it's important to use assessment that reflect real world situations instead of just testing theoretical knowledge?
Why do you think it's important to use assessment that reflect real world situation? Um, I think because we are more familiar, with the real world situations, we feel more familiar, comfortable doing things because, are things that we commonly, I think, well, commonly face.
Hmm. And based on your answer, how do you think that authentic assessment can help you in your future career?
In my future career.
Yes.
Um, Let me think about it.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that it will help me a lot. For example, if I want to be a teacher, that I'm not totally sure about it in the future. I have I
Okay.
can tell my cousins that she is 10 years old. So I help her with some tasks from the school. So I know the areas that she's struggling. For example, it's hard for her to learn about mathematics. She thinks that it's totally boring. So in case that I will be like a teacher or things like that, I know that I need to change, the things, and I will try to
Yeah.
give them, creative and dynamic uh class, so they will learn
Mhm.
a different way, learning and at the same time playing or having fun.
Yes. And it is something you don't like the most, right? To be a teacher.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's see the third question. Have you ever participated on a project or assignment that felt more like a real world task?
Um, why do you think it's most important? Well, as I said before, I'm not totally sure that
No,
it's
no, no.
most.
The second questions. Number
I'm
two.
sorry.
Yeah. Have you
Have
ever
you ever
participated?
have you ever participated in a project or assignment that felt more like real world task? Um, Let me try. Um, yes. In this, this is my last year of my major. So we have a class related with, practicing about how to be a teacher. So I remember that last week I created like a demo class,
Mm-hmm.
pretending to be the teacher and, give instructions, homeworks, well, basically acting like a teacher. So it was, a little nervous for me, but at the end I did the best of me and it was
Mm-hmm.
excellent. So I
Yeah.
remember I was with my class, with the class, sorry, like 2 hours, explaining a topic, acting like if I was a teacher.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yes.
And do you experience the difference from traditional exams?
Um,
Yeah,
Sorry, what was
the experience that you were living at the moment when you were developing a lesson plan, do you notice the difference from traditional exams?
let me think about it. Of course that, there is a difference between the two process, because in one, so you can use real life situations to put in practice, and the other one basically is just straight to the point. So
Yeah.
use some, for example, use true or false activities, select the right answer, multiple choice, instead of
Mm-hmm.
the tradition. Sorry, what is the other one? The assessment that reflect the real world, so we can use a lot of examples in order that the students understand, that topic or whatever we are try to transmit them.
Yeah, very good, very good. Let's move on to next slide. Here we're gonna see some key concepts for developing authentic assessment. And we have, what do you understand by that question? What makes an assessment authentic? Based on the previous sessions that we have been discussing, what do you think that assessment can make authentic?
Well, first of all, I think that is the main one. Use real life word examples.
Yeah, that I would say that that is the keyword, right? That we
Yes,
got. So that those assessment that to be considered authentic, they have to be based or focused on real world context, right?
exactly.
Yeah, that is the keyword. Okay, let's move on to next slide. And here we got some features of authentic assessment in real world context. As you know that when we say real world context, they are tasks, right? That are relevant to real life situations. For
Exactly.
example, in the previous sessions, we were talking about solving problems, solving a business problem, or conducting an experiment, right? So they are based on real world context. And what about this? Higher order thinking. We were discussing about this in the previous session.
Higher order thinking. Hmm, higher order thinking. Well, if I'm not mistaken, it's about in the way that we in the as well, it's like, you know, procedures or steps that we need to
Mhm.
follow.
Yeah, it's related on the way that we analyze, right?
Exactly, the
Those
way we
real life
analyze.
situations, in the way how we
It's
analyze,
like
how we
our
can
critical
synthesize. Yeah.
thinking, if I'm not mistaken, is for critical thinking.
Yes. 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 It's how we are going to look for a solution for such problems, right? How you're going to synthesize those problems and look for a better solution for this. Okay, good. And what about the multiple solutions?
Multiple solutions. Um, well, it's like making reference about the multiple options or the multiple solutions, as the word say. Well, the different ways that we can handle, you know, to resolve
Right.
the problem or the things that we are supposed to do.
Right. When we are
Or like,
emphasis, right? When we are focused on the processes, right? And approaches,
exactly.
not just
So
to
are
see a simple solution, right?
exactly. So are like the alternative that we have available to resolve them.
Right. Yeah, I strongly agree with you. What about the feedback oriented?
Well, the feedback oriented, if well, it's like, well, basically it's to explain them, you know, the things that they did well or the things that they need to improve. It's like, you know, provide information about why they should done better or well or if there is something to improve.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, with feedback, we can let them know. So for the next time, the things that they need to improve or enhance.
Yes. Let's move on to next slide. Now, here we got the steps that we have to take into consideration when developing authentic assessment. The first one, and one of the most important, is learning objectives. You know that we need to define the specific learning goals for the assessment, okay? So in other
Exactly.
words, we need to know or what we want the students to be able to demonstrate by completing the task, right? So we need to be clear with the objective, with the learning objective. For example,
Exactly.
if we have a reading assessment, you know that the goal could be to assess a student ability to interpret and analyze complex text, right? Because this is
That's right.
related to reading. What about for writing?
You need to check, you know, it will be the grammar,
Mm-hmm.
the also the critical thinking, uh, how they, you
Yeah.
know, connect the words to make a solid idea.
Yes, something important that you mentioned, connect words, right? Connecting ideas. So we need to assess the student's ability, to connect or to organize the ideas clearly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And the second steps that we got is design the real world task. What do you understand for that?
Mm, design the real world task. Um, I don't know.
So it is here when we have to simulate a real life scenario. For example, let's suppose that you're a master on system engineering and you got a group of students and they have to create a video blog. So you need to give some clear instructions about this one. So the real world task in this case is related to creating a video blog. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
What about in the teaching area?
Um, in the teaching area, it will be
Depends, remember that depends on the skills that you want to assess. If we're gonna assess oral communications, so that the real world task can be a role play, can be
yes, it will
an
be a role play.
scenario, can be an scenario or on a restaurant, on a cafeteria, you know?
Yes,
That makes sense?
now makes sense.
Okay, good. Let's see the step number 3. Choose assessment criteria. What do you think about it?
Well, choose the elements that you will assess in the assignment, or have a clear idea what would you like to evaluate, or yes.
Yes, you're right. So you know that I would say that simple assessment criteria can be also defined as a statement, right? That we use to evaluate a student performance, no? So clear instructions about what we want to a student to get, right? And of course, they have to be aligned with the learning objective that we have at the beginning. Because remember that if we got a clear learning objective, so the task is gonna be easier. But what happens if the student don't understand the learning objective? They are not clear.
Exactly. So they will be lost without clear instructions.
Exactly. For example, if we got a assessment criteria for a writing task, one of these one could be coherence and organization of ideas. That would be the assessment criteria, right?
Yes.
Even we can assess grammar and vocabulary, as you said before. Clarity and conciseness of the writing. Remember that we have to take into account those aspects that are relating to the writing task, like unity, like cohesion, coherence, punctuation rules, the different things. What about the developed rubrics? What do you understand by rubrics?
Basically, it's like to separate the way that you will evaluate that what you would like to well, first of all, you need to have a clear rubric. Check, the points that every exercise will be scored. And also the things that you want to evaluate in the exams.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. Now let's see an example of rubric. This is for a writing task. Here we got the criteria, coherence and organization, grammar and vocabulary, creativity and originality, clarity and conciseness. So, and we got some performance, right? Like this, excellent. When is gonna be excellent, the coherence and organization? When the students got some clear and logical flows of ideas. It is good when it is well organized, some minor lapses. It is fair when some organization but lacks flow and needs improvement, disorganized and unclear, and unacceptable no logical structure. You know that I would say that writing is one of the skills, the most difficult skills, because writing is not just write. We need to know what are we gonna write. There are many
Exactly.
people that they
The
write
ideas.
pages of paper, and at the end, the main idea is not clear. You understand what I mean?
Right, so first of all, I need to have like coherent, like link the ideas each other in order to transmit, a good main point or main information.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So when we use rubric, you know that this is a scoring guide that outlines the expectation for each level of performance, right? So we use it to, to give some grades to the students. Okay, I'm gonna give you this task, but these are gonna be the parameters that I'm gonna take into account at the moment when I'm going to evaluate. For example, in the task that you will find for this session, you also find a rubric. So the parameters that I'm asking for you to do, right?
Okay.
Now let's see the conclusion. I know that you're so exhausted.
I'm still working, teacher.
Really? I'm sorry for
Yes.
interrupting you.
No worries.
Just as a key phrases or key words that we need to take into consideration when creating authentic assessment. So the alignment between learning objective and assessment tasks. Remember that they have to be aligned, okay? Because probably you got an assessment and the objective says another things, so it's gonna be confused for the students, right? Then we have to use the use of rubrics to ensure fairness and consistency. Remember that when we give some rubrics to the students, they feel more comfortable because they know what parameters the teacher is going to evaluate in his or her presentation, in his or her writing or piece of writing, and the balance between practicality and depth of learning. Remember that practicality, it's one of the principle of assessment, something that we were discussing in some previous sessions, right? So the burning question is, do you have any questions? If you don't have any, so we can finish here. And just to remind you that you got a task that you have to complete for this session. And as usual, you have been completed on time, okay? So if no questions, Regina, we're gonna end over here, okay? And please do the task. Bye-bye.